that's the case, what is your fees?
The professional fee is what is a tool that we use to attract an agent to bring a ready, willing, and able buyer. EXP would receive 3%, and then our intentions, we would pay out 3% to cooperating agents and brokers, because that's typically what they might expect, and we want to attract as many agents as we possibly can.
So what is that total?
6 total.
6 total.
Any other questions?
Yeah. That's a smaller house, right?
Yeah, it is a smaller house for sure. And as you can see by the pictures, this one wasn't brand new like yours. Yep. And you can see this one, bedrooms and baths were very similar.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah,
now, for the sake of time, because I'm coming out of the role play for a second, I value your questions and the discussion we can have in a moment more than going through a CMA. But you guys know how to go through a CMA, right? Okay. All right. So normally I would go through 6 comparables. And then I'm going to ask this question. So Freddie, now that you've seen this information, the real question, as I asked you, is if you were buying your home all over again, what price would you feel comfortable making an offer at for your home that you believe would be representative of fair market value?
If I was a buyer, probably in the 580s.
Yep, I would agree with you, Freddie.
No, but we need to sell it for at least 600,000. We cannot go that low.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like at the price of 600, you would feel comfortable listing the home today. Is that correct?
That's the least that I'll probably, I need to sell. Remember, I just paid $440 for the house, and we have expenses, we have all the expenses, plus I'm sure the fees that you haven't told me yet.
Correct.
We don't want to go negative, and at least we want to cash out so we can move back to Maryland.
I understand. So, Freddie, here's my thought. There are 2 strategies in pricing a home in today's market.
Okay.
And while we make this decision together as a team, may I share them with you so that you can be clear on what they are?
Please.
Okay. So the first decision or strategy would be that we price it right where the market is. And as you can see here, based on the average and where it would put us, I think you nailed it. Somewhere between 580 and 590 is going to be correct for the market. When we pay attention to the market and we price right where the market has been, typically what ends up happening, Freddie, is more buyers show up. The more buyers that show up is the more people that will be interested in the home. The more interest means that we're going to have a greater chance of you getting more than one offer at the same time, which allows us to negotiate from a position of strength. Now the second strategy, Freddie, is we can price it beyond the market. You're the boss here, you're in charge. What we find though is when we're priced beyond the market, even with the low inventory that we currently have, we could potentially end up becoming the pivot home. Do you know what that means?
What is that?
So the pivot home is the home where, and I've been in my own listings, and I've heard agents show the home, and I'm there and they're saying, you know what, if you like this home at this price, wait till you see the next one that I show you. And they're simply using that inventory, that home, to sell the competition. So now, the challenge that creates, Freddie, is we accumulate days on market. And when a home has more days on market than it's supposed to, what questions do you think buyers start to ask?
I don't know, maybe that something is wrong with the house.
Yeah, they'll ask what's wrong with the house. That's a given. Or they might ask, is it overpriced? In which case, then we might be fielding lowball offers. So Freddie, of these 2 strategies, giving your timeline and when you want to get to Maryland to start that job with your mother, which makes more sense to you, strategy 1 or 2?
The one, of course. But I think there's a way that maybe you can sell it for around 600,000, just to see if we can get a little more.
So what I'm hearing is you want to list it a little bit high. Is that correct?
Yes, not so, but at least I think we were already doing our budget, and
Yep.
with at least 600,000, I think we can definitely make it happen.
Freddie, I never want you to feel like you're leaving a dollar on the table. Here's my question to you. If I was to monitor it closely so that you know throughout the course of the listing, and we watch it real close for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and we see what the traffic is, would you want to list it at the 600 and then I can let you know if we're actually getting the traction that we're supposed to get, or do you want to put it at the 590?
I'll prefer the first one that you're telling me. You said for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, correct?
Yep, we'll watch it really close.
And you let me know what's activity, what's going on.
Yep, so do you want to start it at the 600 now?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's the price I would like to start.
Okay.
Correct.
Are there any other questions that you would have before we get started on the paperwork?
No, but what do you think about the 600? I would like to know your opinion.
Freddie, here's what I know. The market will speak to us. If you see this home right here, the market spoke to us. How many days did it take for it to go under contract?
1 week.
Correct. And then you see this one right here. If you remember, we went back through the history.
Yeah, 20 days.
How many days did this one take to go under contract?
Yeah, but that was about 600,000. Yeah, it took like 4 months.
And they had to do reductions, significant reductions. But then you see this one here where they priced it and then they actually got over their asking price. And that happened in how many days?
That was in also 6 days.
Correct. So if we're out there at the right number, as I shared with you, more people are going to show up. And we actually have the potential to negotiate from a position of strength. And we may get an offer that's at least your asking price, possibly a little more. So again, it's up to you.
Your opinion, how much we should list for?
My suggestion, you have important goals so that you can experience peace in your life. You're starting a job at the beginning of October. If it was me in that scenario, I might suggest, or I would consider doing it at the 590, starting at the correct number today.
And do you think we can have it sold within the next couple of weeks?
I think we'll be good. Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, how much is your fees?
So the professional fee is a tool that we use to attract an agent to bring a ready, willing, and able buyer. So EXP would receive 3%, and then our intentions, we would pay out 3% to cooperating agents or brokers, because that's typically what they might expect, and we want to attract as many agents as we possibly can.
So what is that the total?
6 total.
6 total.
Any other questions?
Yeah, because we are in the process of selling, so I did call other agents that they were offered that they could sell it for 5%.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that, Freddie.
And we were kind of counting with that.
And what I'm hearing is that you want to net every dollar that you possibly can get.
That's the goal, yes.
Okay, all right. So Freddie, let me remind you, because as a professional, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't share with you what concerns me about that. Is it okay if I do that?
Go ahead.
All right, so as I shared with you, the fee, the professional fee, is a tool that we use to attract an agent to bring a qualified, ready, willing, and able buyer. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't be doing my job, Freddie, if I didn't share with you how it could affect you and your plans of getting to Maryland in a time frame that's going to serve you. So, I mean, again, you're the boss. What did you have in mind based on that? I mean, do you want to be at a commission that's going to get you there, or?
Mark, we saw your track record, so definitely think you can make it happen.
Okay.
But it's something that you can do better on the commission. We were definitely, in our minds, we were already thinking that 5%.
Okay.
But what is the best that you can do for us?
So Freddie, I'm curious. You saw my track record. If we could do this at 5.5%, and we still offer out to a buyer's agent what they would expect.
So you give the other agent,
What they would expect,
and what is that?
3%,
Okay.
and then I would take a reduction in mine so that we could actually still keep you in that place with other agents as to what they might expect, and we're not hindering any showings. Is that something that you would consider?
Yes.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions?
No.
May I offer a suggestion?
Sure.
Can we get started on the paperwork?
Let's do it.
Thank you, Freddie.
Let's do it.
So you want to keep the mic on for a second?
I really like how you validated all his questions.
Thank you.
Like you validated what he was saying to make him feel comfortable.
Can you explain what you mean by validated?
Well, like he, basically, I understand what you're saying, and then you would just bring that topic, back to that topic, but you validated and appreciated what he was saying and made, in my opinion, would make him feel comfortable with however he's feeling.
Agreed. Because acknowledgement is different than agreement.
Yeah.
Right? So when they're like, hey, commission's too high, I understand. Did I just agree with you? No. I just acknowledged what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I see where you're coming from. And you did an awesome job of that.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
The other thing I noticed, I don't know if anybody else noticed, how many times did Freddie ask him what price he thought he should be at? I counted 3. You know what most agents do? Verbally vomit. They can't withstand somebody asking them and not saying something. But what did he keep doing over and over again? What did he do? Anybody notice?
Asking.
He said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this information together as a team, and what's going to emerge is a tight, realistic range. So how about we do that? Because the moment that you verbally vomit a price, what would have Freddie done?
Commission.
Instantaneously, you would have watched him go like this. Well, that's not what I want. You see? So he resisted that temptation. That was bait.
Yep.
Multiple times. He asked them 3 times, I counted. Well, what do you think, Mark? What do you think,
Yep.
Mark? What do you think, Mark? And every single time, he put it back to the market analysis. And if you don't do that, you know what ends up happening? You claim the price, and then when you ask for a price reduction, what are they going to say? But you told me! And you get mad at them. You shouldn't be mad at them. Who should you be mad at? Yourself, because you verbally vomited when they asked you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the market determines the price, not me, not us as agents. We don't want to own it. We love to own it when the market's going up, and then when the market's going down, you know, so it's best if we always just keep it on the market. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Any other ahas, observations, or questions?
I took detailed notes. I don't know about you guys. So the second thing I wrote down is, do you notice how I gave them options?
Yes.
Most agents are like, well, I received a 75 on a test, and I wasn't a felon yet, and I had $1,000, so I know everything, which is ridiculous. Instead, he's like, hey, you have options. So we're going to go over the options that you have at your disposal, so that way you can choose the one that you feel will work for you and your family best. And whatever you decide, I'm going to support you, what? 100%. And what does that make Freddie feel like? Whose team is Martha?
His.
His. How do most agents present? Me versus you. I know you don't. I'm smart, you're stupid. You guys catch that? Multiple times he kept giving options, right? He was trying to pin him down to one. He's like, nope, here's the menu. And whatever you decide is fine.
And for me, that was big, because even though, you know, Mark, the way that he presented, he's like so nice. He's so polite. And he always ended up with a question, which he already kind of pushed you to tell you that. So for me, it was pretty much yes, no, sure, the way that they actually, the way that he actually presented.
And I'm wondering, did you feel, because there's options and choices, do you feel that you're in control?
I feel at one point that I was under control because
Yes.
because he was asking me and I was just
100%. And then you notice if you do that right, what did Freddie ask? What do you think? You see, you guys offer what you think before you've been asked. Ask yourself in your personal life, if somebody offers you what they think without you asking, how do you feel about that? You're like, I'm good. Like, why are you even doing that, bro? Right? Immediately. So it was the complete opposite. If you do this properly, then what will happen is exactly what took place. Freddie said, well, what do you think? Now they are completely receptive to what you're going to say, correct? The other thing I noticed too, anybody notice what was Freddie's pain point?
It was the price.
Time. It's not price.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, you see? Everything was price. No. It was time. How many times did Mark bring that up? 3? So it's like, hey, you know, what I'm aware of is we can try that option, right? At the same time, tell me this, what would happen on the outside chance if we were still sitting here 120 days from now and the home wasn't sold? What would that mean for you and your family? What are people motivated, guys, by in life?
Time and money.
No. Pain. What's the second one?
Pleasure.
Pleasure. What are more people motivated by? Pain. So what did Mark start to just poke a little bit?
Poke the bear a little bit.
You just keep pushing on the pain. Yeah, we could do that. That's an option. What would happen if we waited? What would happen if it took longer? What would that mean for you and your family? He asked, so what do you want? Do you want your mom to go with you? Or do you want her to stay back? What is that button? Pain. And because of that, Freddie's able to now see this more clearly. And then he asked, what do you think? Now, one of the things that, like, you can break tension there, where you can say is like, well, do I have permission to be candid and straightforward? And Freddie would have been like, yeah. Like, so you're not going to get angry and throw me out of the house? And they're always like, ha, maybe. And then you tell them what was, and notice when Mark gave him the price, what did he tie it to? Freddie's motivation and his time. Do you see? It wasn't just like, well, what do you think, Mark? Like $590. Instead, it was, well, based on what you shared with me is important for you and your family, the time you want to be out there, and what you're trying to accomplish, I believe the marketplace is showing us around $590 would help you to make that happen. Does that make sense to you? And he's like, well, yeah, I guess it does.
And I think that's why it helped me to push that way, because the way that he said, based on what is important for you, the time that you need to be there with your mom, what do you think I recommend, you know, or I suggest this price?
That's right.
But he already remind me that
Because
it's not going to be in the house.
if he hadn't have done that, you know what it would have became? A pissing match. I'm right, you're
Yeah.
wrong. How many besides me have ever been in a pissing match with Sal before?
Yep.
Because you don't present it right. And they're like this, and you're like this.
We lose.
And then you walk out and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. We're not
It's-
gonna win.
It's because you're not gonna win.
No.
Or you think you won and you walked out, you're like, I showed them. And somebody else is the damn property. Right? So because he felt that way, he was more receptive to what was like that interaction. Otherwise it would have been like, I'm right, you're wrong. And that never works. Right? And then the other thing I wrote down is, did you notice when he insisted on the 600? What did Mark do? What did he ask him? He asked him something. Is that the only one paying attention? What did he do?
Like as a buyer,
He asked a very specific question.
like do you, if you're a buyer, you would like to pay?
No. What did he ask? He said, well, I'm curious, if we go ahead and do that, if for some reason the marketplace doesn't respond in a couple weeks, would you be prepared to make an adjustment? What is he doing up front? No, by the way, notice when I go like this, what did your brain do as an adult? You said what? Lower. Did that come out of my mouth? No. You happened in your brain though, because that's how you teach adults. So are you going to be prepared to make an adjustment? You know what I'm talking about without me saying it. But when you agree to that, what did you just agree to? Lowering the price. Do you understand?
So you're not gonna be upset later.
You're not going to get
You've
upset.
already had that conversation.
So when, exactly. So now, when he comes back and it's 2 weeks later, Mark says, hey, do you remember that conversation we had when we initially put the property in the market for sale? We had two separate options at our disposal, if you recall. One was to start higher and come down. The other was to position more competitively. And of those two, you chose to start higher. Do you remember that? Notice, who chose? Ah, Freddie chose. He's like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and if you recall, the marketplace was going to tell us if they saw value in our price and our product. Do you remember how they were going to tell us that? And Freddie will say, showings and offers. Yeah. And what we're seeing is we've had 2 showings and no offers. So here's my question, Freddie. What do you think the buying public is telling us about our price and product? And then shut up. And what is Freddie going to do? Well, yeah, I guess it's the price. Yeah. So we're in agreement that the marketplace is telling us that we need to make an adjustment. Question is just simply how much. Do you see what's happening? Right? So he told me, well, I guess it's the price. Yeah, did I tell him? No, he told me. And then I say, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. The marketplace, did I tell? No, the marketplace is telling us the price is too high. So it seems like we need to make an adjustment. The question now is just how much. You see how we're already adjusting. Now it's just a matter of how much we're going to adjust. Does that make sense? But that was a very key thing that he said there. Because a lot of us will be like, okay, if we agree to do it 600, like let's get started now. You won't ask if they're prepared to make an adjustment, and then it becomes a fight. Anybody who's like me ever experienced that?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
And we never win.
Hey, just so I'm clear, high energy equals high income.
Yep.
High energy equals high income, okay? So how many people besides me have had that experience with a seller? Say aye. Yes, 1,000%. You agree, you go away, and you're like, yeah, you do the happy dance, you go back to your office, you do this thing, you post it on Instagram, and then it comes a month later and you ask them to reduce the price and they say no.
Well, he articulated a very good way by saying that they'll monitor you
That's right.
everything closely without shutting him down, but actually saying, okay, we can try it your way, but in a roundabout way,
Agreed.
you know, and that's like also asking for lowering the price later on.
That's right.
Pretty much
Yeah, and I
prepared.
think that the way that we present price is flawed. We're doing it for a time when there's no internet. You trying to come from a place of authority like you know and they don't is stupid. You realize they're on Zillow every day refreshing their profile?
Yeah.
Do you know that 95% of Americans, the majority of their net worth is where? In their house. They look at that shit every day. And you're going to come in there and be like, well, you know, I study homes and prices every day, so I know and you don't. Like, that's dumb. Instead, it should be collaborative.
That was my script.
Right. It was. 4 years ago, that was his script. That's what he would say, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, I assume you'll listen to me. I'm like, bro, that's built for a time where there's no internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they're looking at it all the time. So instead, what it should be is collaborative. Like we're going to look at this together as a team, and we're going to see this range emerge, and then from there we'll come down to strategy, and we'll go over the strategies, and whatever you decide, I'll support you. That's much more in alignment with the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Right? So 50 years ago, doctors could be like, you go in and see the doctor, and they'd be like, yeah, go drink a Coke, your stomach hurts, see you later. They wouldn't tell you anything. That was it. You had no access to the internet. Now, before you go in and see them, what are you doing? WebMD. And then you sit with them, like, well, you know, I studied and I saw that I think that this symptom is what, right?
Google that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And imagine what it's like to be a physician. Where they're like, bro, I went to school 15 years, you're gonna come in there and be like, WebMD doctor, you know what I mean? But they have to now augment the way that they present information. Does that make sense? And we have to do the same thing. And Mark did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm grateful.
Yeah. So any other questions, comments, concerns, observations?
I have a couple of
Yeah.
things. So I think it's in your pre-qual script when you talk about, oh, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you purchase the home for? Great, sounds like we have quite a bit of equity to protect. I am bringing, because sometimes I forget to say that in the
Yeah.
initial conversation, I'm bringing that to the listing appointment with the tax record, and I'm asking them before we get into a CMA, and that helps anchor pricing as well. I am also asking them how, if you don't mind me asking, how are you tracking the real estate market and what's happening and what your home is worth? Sometimes we're gonna say, well, my neighbor sold his home for $620, so I think I can get $630. Or they will say, what we all know they do, is they're looking at their home on Zillow, and I'm always bringing their estimate with them. And I will say, yes, I also see your estimate. We're gonna set this to the side and see, you know, after our collaboration, what the internet's opinion of your home, if they are higher, lower, or kind of on track. That way we're addressing it, like I've done the research, and we can include that into the conversation.
I think that's very intelligent because you're acknowledging their own process. Like this is what they're doing procedurally, and you're acknowledging that like upfront.
And I also,
And I think we have to understand, because more likely than not, they don't know the trajectory of the current real estate market right now. They don't know that we're either slow and stable or slightly chasing the market down.
Yep.
They're probably talking to their neighbor who sold 18 months ago, who could overlist and get that price with little to no effort.
That's right.
we're not
Yeah,
the same
so,
market.
and I think the key takeaway is like as information
If it didn't sell.
Yeah, right.
And they may hold you responsible.
So a way to fix that, I jumped on some office that was doing a meeting, they were talking about the 4-minute mile, I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with less inventory?
Then look up that attorney
Right.
and call them and say, I just want to thank you for the great job that you did
Yeah.
on creating and closing this probate for this client.